Okay, so I want to look at a few methods where we have to traverse through an array. There's two ways to do that. One is going through the indices of the array, and that's probably something we're more comfortable with. And then the other way is to rotate through the elements in the array. The difference is when you rotate through the indices, you can know where you are in the array, and therefore you can change the values that are stored there. Also, when you're in a method and you change the values in the array, you actually change the array. So you don't have to return those values. The array is going to be altered when you alter it within a method. When you rotate through the values in the array, you don't know where you are in the array. Just each time it goes to the next value. So it's kind of like a scanner in a sense where you can't figure out where you are, so you can't change it. You just get the value and you can do whatever you want with it, and then you move on to the next value. Okay, so we're gonna go through these. These are kind of like little problems that involve traversing through an array. I don't know, I think I might make 3 or 4 videos out of it, but each one individually or together, they could combine to make, they're little questions that could be similar stuff that would show up on our test. So we'll do generate an array, randomly choose the size for an array between 1 and 10, inclusive, and then randomly fills the array with whole numbers from 0 to 100. Then we'll find the minimum. Again, that's going to take an array as a parameter and return the minimum value in that array. Find maximum, same thing, but for the maximum. So I think we've done a few practices that involve something like that. So you might have already done that. Convert to even, maybe I should have that called. Convert to even, which will take a number array as a parameter. I didn't say that here, but I should have. And then convert every element in the array to an even number by leaving even numbers alone and replacing odd numbers with 2 times their value. And then step D, when we double those guys, we're gonna have some that are maybe bigger than 100. So we'll count the ones that are in the hundreds in that number array as a parameter, and it will return how many of the elements are greater than or equal to 100. Okay, so each of those is going to involve traversing through an array. Well, part A does not, but parts B through E do, and really only part D involves changing the numbers in the array. So each of the other parts could be done with either method of looping. So we'll try a little bit of both. Okay. Go over to Eclipse. We're in chapter 7. We'll do a new class. I'm just going to call it traversing array. Example 3. Set up my headers. Maybe before each method, I will put a little description of that method, of the problem that it's asking. But upstairs here, to describe the problem, I'll just say, we're going to do some examples. This program will exemplify 2 ways to traverse or go through an array. And we're just going to do an array of integers. I mean, it could be any kind of data object in the array. Okay, let's see. I think we're going to need a scanner. I don't think I need anything yet. So we'll start right in here with generate array. And that needs to return, I didn't say it, but it needs to return an integer array. And we'll call that array number array. And then the error here is that I haven't defined this function yet, so we'll go down and set up the header for that. Public static returning an integer array. It's called generate array. No parameters. And for now, let's just return. Can I do an empty array, or does it need something in there? I think it wants something in there, so we'll put a 0 in there. No. Let me set up a fake array here for a second. Integer array equal to the array, nothing in it. I'll just call this temp, 0 in it, and I'll return temp. I'm not sure why it's not letting me do that. You may want to know how big this array is going to be. Oh, I know, I just need a semicolon. There we go. Okay. Because we don't know how big it's going to be because we're going to randomly generate it. So above here, let's put a comment in what we're going to do here. Randomly chooses a size for the array between 1 and 10. And randomly generates numbers from 0 to 100 to fill the array. Okay, so first we'll generate the size. So I'll have integer size equals math.random. I want rand in between. Rand. Hang on one second. Okay, sorry, I wanted to import java.utilities, everything, and then I want to use the random. I don't want to use math.random, I want to use a random object. So we'll go random r equals new random. And then integer size equals r. We could use math.random, but we have to integer cast it and multiply it by whatever we need to get between. Remember, math.random is between a number between 0 and 1. Integer size equals r dot r dot next integer. We want to go from 1 to 10. So I'm going to hit 10 here. That's from 0 to 9. And we'll add 1 to it to get between 1 and 10. And then this temporary integer array will now be an integer array with a given size. And I need to give it a name, a new here, new integer array. So that sets up an integer array with a given size, and now we can do a loop to fill it up. So for integer I start at 0, I less than or equal to, about just less than size, I plus plus. We don't want to pass the end of the array. So the array starts at 0 and it has size elements. So the last element is an index size -1. So we're going to go I is strictly less than size, so it'll stop right at the end. And then we need to fill and generate a random number, but we can do that at the same time. So I can say temp bracket r dot next int. Now I want to go from 0 to 100, so I can type 101 here. That will go from 0 to 100. Oh, and I need to say that, sorry. We need that. Sorry. I need temp bracket I, sorry, to equal that value. Randomly generate a number between 0 and 100, and then put it in temp.I, and then let's I could, let's just sort of see what's happening by just printing this temp.i out. And remember, this is, it's randomly generated, so we don't know how big the size is going to be, but we do know that loop will run, and then we're returning temp. So run this guy, and we should get to see. Here's our first, or our array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 values. Run it again. The size should be changing. It did, 5 values, and the numbers changed. Run it again. Down to 1 value, perfect. Okay, so that method is done. We generated an array, a random size between 1 and 10, and then we filled it up with values. And I think I will leave that method there, and I will come back to the next video to do min and max together.